What's up, guys? I know this is a little odd just seeing me. I don't have AI whispering in my ear anymore, making me be negative about everything. In fact, just for this episode of Game Grudge, let me just change how things look around here a little bit. You see that? Look at that. I'm gonna be positive for once. And in fact, I'm going to talk positively about something that I feel myself was like wrong about. In that you may have seen a video that I made that was about Borderlands 3, it's Gamer Grudge. We just mock everything. It's set like it's mostly like satire. It's mostly just mocking things just to mock it and just be trolls. Just have a fun time with it and just, be like kind of buddy buddy and just like make fun of things. But instead I wanted to talk positively about my own experience at PAX and just being there for the Borderlands 4 panel with Kalo and just having a blast with it. And also my experience actually meeting the people from the panel and how it has like actually changed my view on the game itself so far. So just to start off, just to break down who was in the panel, it was Grant Cow, Nick Thurston, April Johnson, Andrew Reiner, and of course Randy Pitchford. And each one of them, they talked about like different aspects of the game. They broke down the gameplay that we saw earlier, like even more. They talked about the different Vault Hunters. They talked about their upbringings. They talked about like backstory and stuff. They talked about they answered community questions. They just overall, they talked a lot about the world. So let's break that down. Let's start off with everything that they talked about in there first. And so first off, let's go. And hey, since I'm going to be the one editing this, let's start off with the whole world aspect. For the world, they talked about how the compass is making a return. From Borderlands 1, it's no longer going to be just a mini-map system, which a lot of people were like weird about. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people liked it. It was like iffy. Me personally, I could take it or leave it. I've grown attached to the mini-map system, but I've never been like a hardcore, oh, it has to be that type of person. And hearing them talk about how they chose to do the compass just because of how big the world is, and I've talked before with Kalo about how it feels like natural progression that the world is getting this big, and really the compass, just like how they were talking about it, just feels like it should be the compass. And they talked about how they have like, instead of the catch ride system, they have the whole like, oh, you can spawn your vehicle thing right there by you and just drive it around and everything. I think that's a great progression personally, and I think that that is a great way to change the style of the game, just to keep it like on par with everything that we've seen like from 2, gameplay of 3. Like I keep saying, it feels natural to go in that direction. And overall, like everything that they talked about with the world, it felt really good. It made me a lot more positive about it. I mean, I still have a little bit of gripes with like some things, but maybe future gameplay will like iron that out. We'll see, but I'll talk about that later. Next up is the Vault Hunters. There is Amon, which is the big bearded dude who's like Viking-esque. There's Harlow, who is the like technical woman who I kept calling the tech lady in other videos. And then we have Vex, who is the new Siren. And then there's also Rafa, who is the Exo Soldier. And they talked about each one of them, with Harlow being one of the Trant family. Has 5 PhDs and everything. Super smart, uses gravity to her will. Honestly, she's probably going to be my main. Probably going to go with her. That, or I'll probably focus on having Rafa, because both of them seem really cool to me. And then Rafa, basically, he just has this exosuit that like keeps him alive, and so he always feels like he has to live life to the fullest because of it. Then there's Vex, and like she's the first Siren who's like kinetic focused, and they broke down her a little bit more. So like I'll go into that here in a minute. But then there's Amon, and Amon is like he grew up with in like a vault monster worshipping cult, and then they opened up a vault and it killed everybody except for him, and now he just wants to kill all the vault monsters. And I just think that that's pretty badass. I love that. I think it's amazing. And personally, it kind of feels like an edgy D&D backstory to me, and that just speaks to me because I'm a huge D&D nerd. But to break things down even further, like they talked about Vex specifically, and like so let's flash that up there. Vex is the first kinetic focused siren, and she has like 3 different abilities, which is the Incarnate, the Dead Ringer, the Phase Familiar. And like Dead Ringer basically is just like summoning different copies of herself, and like Phase Familiar is summoning a cat, and then Incarnate is just like enhancing herself with like supernatural powers and everything. And overall she has like a really cool aesthetic to her. It kind of feels vampire-esque, and I like that. But like I don't see her being my main, and honestly there's like a little bit of something that I wish they would have like paid off for. A lot of people were talking about a theory of like, oh, the new Siren being Emily Swan, because she was talked about in the pre-sequel and everything, and I was on board with that. I loved that idea, and it kind of fit because of the purple coloring and everything, and I was hoping that it would be that. But I'm still hoping that maybe Vex is just a pseudonym for her. Maybe that's like just a stand-in or something, and maybe that is actually Emily Swan. But we'll have to see like what type of, obviously, like what information they put out and everything about each one of the Vault Hunters. So all I can say is maybe in the game we will see echo logs that actually explain it. But now let's move on to all the stuff that they talked about with the bosses. The boss stuff is what really made me hopeful. And they already had mentioned, like in the state of play thing, that, oh, they're going to be allowing people to replay bosses and everything, so you don't have to exit out and then come back in to fight a boss again and do all that stuff, and you can actually fight bosses over and over again with your friends. They doubled down on that in the PAX panel. They talked about that. They talked about like there being stations or something that you can go up to like resummon a boss so you can fight them again. And you can fight it with your friends in there, so that way you can really like just keep replaying the same boss, farm to your leisure, and then whenever you're tired of it, just stop and go explore the world more. That is great, and I think that's great like progression from where the system was in 2 and in 3. And so like I think going from 3, where it was a little bit faster load time so you could like hop into the game a little bit quicker and everything to fight a boss again, I think that that's great that they progressed to a point where it's like, oh, just go to this machine and you can fight a boss again. And it's something that honestly I think the community probably was really looking forward to, and they obviously didn't get in 3, and I was looking forward to it in 3, and it's about time we got it. But along with that, they talked about legendaries being legendary again, and they emphasized that. I am very happy about that. I'm excited, exuberant about it. Really want legendaries to matter again, because they didn't in 3. That was one of my biggest gripes about 3. And so like I'm glad that we now have legendaries that matter again. They talked about the different rarities of it being like going from common to legendary, and then also Randy Pitchford did slightly say pearlescent, like he just said pearl and then stopped. And so he definitely hinted at pearlescence being a thing again, and I hope that they are. I wouldn't say like they are 100% confirmed, but I don't think he would have like teased it if it wasn't going to be a thing, because that's kind of not really how Randy Pitchford is. So like I don't really think that he would have teased that if it wasn't going to actually be in the game. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get pearlescence, and that's going to be amazing for it. And then the biggest news that they had about the farming in general was dedicated drops are back for sure. They talked specifically about a legendary called Ruby's Grasp, and Ruby's Grasp, it was like something like grabbing enemies and like bending them to your will or something like that he said. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it sounded great. It comes from that boss that has like the many hands that showed up in the state of play. And then Randy Pitchford specifically said, oh, did you hear that? He said it comes from that boss specifically, so yeah. And then they confirmed that dedicated drop, like every boss will have a dedicated drop. So that includes like bosses, mini bosses, world bosses. So super excited about that. But that's basically everything from the PAX panel, besides like them answering community questions, which I'll go over with Kevin at a later time because there's a lot that they go into with that. But um, that now is when I just like want to focus on my personal moments that I had, because like immediately after, so let's get that on screen. Boom, personal moments. Woo. So like after the PAX panel, there was specifically a moment where like you could go down, have a signing with like the different people who were on stage and everything, and it was a fun time. I ran down there immediately after. I mean, I'm a Borderlands fan. I've had the vault symbol tattooed on me for a long time. Absolutely love. I've loved the games for a long time, and like I have like a mountain of collectibles and everything, and like I even have like a custom Moxie sign and all that on the wall behind the camera that I can't show right now. But anyway, like I went down, waited in line for like, I don't know, like probably 20 minutes or something, and then finally got to talk to everybody, including Sam Winkler, who was there. And so I talked to each person individually a little bit, as like got some information. Like one of them specifically, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. I want to say it was Andrew Reiner who said it, but talked about his favorite boss being specifically, well, not boss, favorite Vault Hunter being specifically Timothy, and I thought that was really cool. It was a great moment. And then when I got to Sam, everybody always, at least everyone I always hear, talks about accrediting him with being like the downfall of Borderlands 3 and stuff, and like with the story and all that. And I talked to him, I looked at him. I probably looked like a really crazed fan when I did. So, Sam, if you watch this, sorry if I came off crazy. But like I spoke to him. I just said, hey, what are you doing with Borderlands 4 that's going to just make it be better than Borderlands 3? Because Borderlands 3 was not good in terms of story. And when I did that, immediately, lady next to him just said that she would fight me over that. And I was like, I will fight you, because it wasn't a good story. And I stand by that. It wasn't a good story. And I've had gripes with Borderlands 3. It really, story wasn't good. The main antagonists, they could have been good if they didn't make them influencers and stuff. It would have been nice. But Sam had a heart-to-heart with me. He basically told me that there was some stuff that was just out of his reach. He couldn't do it. And like he recognizes that Borderlands 3, the story wasn't like super solid, and I respect that. I do, and I'm happy that he spoke to me about it, and it meant a lot to me personally. And then I also talked to Randy Pitchford and showed him my tattoo. He took a picture of it. So hey, Randy, if you see this too, cool. Here's the tattoo again. I guess, I don't know, but I talked to him, and just like the energy from him was like electric. It's really, it was. And I talked to him. He and I also had a heart-to-heart right there. It was really nice. Like, he shared information with me. I shared information with him. It was fun. It was a fun time. Like, we talked about the game. Talked about, like, the love for the series and everything. And just overall, like, their energy, like, imparted onto me just makes me feel more hopeful about the game. It does. And like I was already feeling more hopeful from the state of play. Obviously, like I make the Game Grudge videos about like just mocking things for fun and all that, pointing out things that the community has gripes about, but also pointing out things that are just like really stupid and all that like, you know, they're just there for obvious satire purposes and everything. But that's why I wanted to make this, because I just wanted to like really break it down, like my actual thoughts about everything. So there we go. That is what I think of Borderlands 3. I'm like Borderlands 4. I mean, I'm very hopeful for it, and I'm excited for it when it comes out. So, yeah. If you're seeing, like, if anyone from the Gearbox team is seeing this, good job. You put on a really good show, and you really like instilled confidence in me to want to get the game again and everything. And like, I'm excited to jump into the world excited to jump into Kairos, like see what it's all like, what it's like, see the improvements you've made, see what the new boss is and everything, and just enjoy it again. Just have stupid fun running around blowing stuff up, you know. But now's when I'm gonna go, oh, transition, boo, whatever, to my disappointments. As far as like disappointing things, like, well, there's really nothing that I have that's like disappointing, you could say, but there is some stuff that like I do have like a little bit of gripes over, which is mainly like I don't personally like the Echo 4 system. I can see why some people would. This isn't me bashing on anyone who does like the idea of the Echo 4 system. I just think it would be cool to be able to turn it off if at least some parts of it. And the parts I'm talking about are just like the GPS part. Like I feel like that in itself is a little bit too handholdy. It feels like a Ubisoft thing that like I don't enjoy really. That's something that I've seen like in a lot of open world games that like I don't really love. It's something like in Horizon Zero Dawn, for instance, one of my favorite games. I don't like that you can do the whole pulse thing and see a track. Like I don't like it personally. So it's just something I wish like in the UI you could turn off or edit in some way so you don't always have it appear if you click that button or something. You have other stuff appear, you know. But like there's that. There's also stuff like I wish that there was more story stuff that would come with a payoff. Like I mentioned the Emily Swan thing. I feel like that should come with a payoff. I feel like just for eagle-eyed fans and everything. There's also in Borderlands 3 they mentioned don't find the seventh or don't look for the seventh or whatever for sirens, and that's when we learned that there's 7 sirens. And I'm hoping, like, this isn't really a gripe, this is just more like a hope, that I hope that there is something in terms of being able to find the 7th or something, or the story focuses on the 7th, or maybe Lilith found the 7th, so that way like it connects to Borderlands 3 in a sense, and like that, and we get a payoff for it. Because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they've done in the past that like they show something big or they share information that feels relevant and then it doesn't have a payoff. And that's where the gripe really comes in, is that like I want that payoff for things. Especially if they want to keep continuing the series, because I'd love to see it continue in like 5 or spin-offs again or anything, because then they could have more payoffs in the future too from this. But really those two, and then like the last gripe that I really have is just the and it might change when I play the game, who knows, but my last actual like gripe is really just like I don't really like the silo thing that they showed off, and the reason why is mainly harkens back to that Ubisoft comment that I made. It feels kind of like a Ubisoft game where it's like every open world has like these activities where you go and you like hit something and then it shows where the location of something is, and I feel like it just takes away from exploration in a sense. And like I'm like a big FromSoft person. Like I love Elden Ring and like I love like Dark Souls and all that. And so like I love discovering the world on my own. I love discovering the location of things on my own, and so therefore like I know I'm going to interact with the silos, but like I wish there was a way to maybe turn off like them showing you the location of things specifically so I can find those locations on my own, or maybe talk to an NPC to get the location instead of like finding those to spawn the where something is on a map. I just personally am not a big fan of that. But again, it could change from me actually playing the game. I don't know. But that's everything. Hopefully you enjoyed this more positive take on my thoughts on the Borderlands 4 game. Again, great work everybody. The whole Gearbox team, I'm rooting for you. I hope that this game blows everything out of the water this year. And like as a longtime fan of the franchise, I am really rooting for you. But peace out, everybody.